now, it's time for the Nailsin ratings. Smart Aleck comments by me, Mr. Nailsin, on all things concerning life, entertainment, culture, politics, and whatever else the cat may drag in. Alright, it's time to look at Doctor Who, or rather, Doctor Who Series 10 so far. There's been a handful of episodes. I guess the Christmas special from last year is counted as part of it. And if it is, I'll go and say that that's the absolute best of the Capaldi shows they've done. That one was just fantastic. I got no fault with it. And I think it's his best episode that he's done. The previous Christmas special that wrapped up the River Song one was really good too. And I'm saying this as someone who doesn't think most of the Capaldi episodes are terrible. And that's the writing, not Capaldi himself. I think Capaldi has everything in him to be probably the best of the new series of Doctor Who shows, to be the best Doctor they've had. He's certainly reminiscent of the original series, but and the same is true of the previous actors. The stories just, they're not very good. And I'll go through that as I'm going through these episodes of what I mean. But anyway, for Husbands of River Song, I would have given 4 out of 5 stars. And for The Return of Dr. Mysterio, I would have given the full 5 because it was just that good. So Series 10 starts off with an episode called The Pilot. And it's sort of about a pilot. It's not called The Pilot because it's the first episode. Because it's not a new series. And it introduces his new companion, Bill, and all that. It's not bad. It didn't irritate me as much as some of the Doctor Who shows do when they really irritate me. And I'm done. But there are problems with it. The creature or monster for this series was bizarre, and it was kind of almost all powerful, and it was kind of like, well, how in the world are you going to defeat this thing? It would have been over the top about how they dealt with it, and probably should have lessened that. But overall, this was another one of these where it ends where the new Doctor Who series loves to manipulate emotion without much of the storytelling to justify the moment. The character Bill has become a bit infatuated with this girl in the story who turns out is taken over by this monster. And is about to lead Bill astray too with this, and the Doctor has to save Bill. Well, Bill didn't even know this girl. She just had, was just starting to develop feelings for her, and she almost throws her whole life away, loses her life to this creature because of she's feeling that it's the girl, and the girl's consciousness is in the entity and all. Whatever, you'll have to see the show to get to the bottom of that. But nevertheless, she wouldn't do that, I don't think, for someone she barely knows just because she thinks she's hot. What it should have been was that this girl had been Bill's girlfriend, and that there had been this relationship here, and then she loses her, and it's very sad. And there you would have the justification for the scene of sadness and remorse, and that she loses this girlfriend to this creature, and it also sets her up for needing the Doctor. Her girlfriend's gone, she's got nobody, and there's the Doctor, and of course he would feel sorry for her in this moment, and would kind of give in to, like, okay, he's going to take on another companion because he's at this point again where they've done this several times before. Well, he's done, not letting anybody else on the TARDIS, and then that would have worked, I think, better if this had been her girlfriend all along, for how many, I don't know, years or whatever, and then, you would have that scene justified by how sad it was. But other than that, like I said, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. So I guess of the stars, I would have given it a half a star. Because I wasn't really all that wild about it, but there's been several Doctor Who episodes that enraged me, and this one didn't. So, so that's what I'll give that one. But speaking of being enraged by Doctor Who shows, the next one didn't disappoint on that. It was called Smile, with emoji robots that turned deadly and all this stuff. This one was just awful. It was really bad. And especially since this is one of these, and it's not the first time it's happened, where you end up with the doctor lecturing people who are actually victims of mass murder about you're being insensitive and probably racist to this new species and all that crap. I mean, their family had just been wiped out by these robots that went rogue, but the doctor says, well, no, they're actually a new species. And that was bad. And I mean, it's one of these things where are they aware that they're doing this to the doctor who's supposed to be your title hero? And not only is he coming across as an asshole, but kind of evil here. And it was just bad. And you're better off just skipping that one altogether. It's awful. So of course it gets no stars. No. But wait, don't give up on Doctor Who yet. Because after that came Thin Ice, and this one so far of Series 10 is the best. It was a complete solid show. The Doctor and Bill travel back in time to the 1800s or 1814, I believe, or something like that. And it's the Thames is frozen over, and there's a sea monster and all this sort of thing, and it's great. And of course, knowing me, I don't like preachy shows, especially from the left. But in this case, there was a narrative concerning racism, but it fit. It was logical. It fit right into the story. It doesn't take you out of the story. And it fits with the times because, of course, it's true. And so yeah, well, when you have one of these narratives you want to deal with, or the story, you can make it organic within the story. It really works well, and it doesn't come out and hit you in the face with it. Well, the Doctor actually does hit the racist in the face. But, you know, it works. So that one was really good. The only, I guess, complaint would be at the end where so, Bill, what shall we do with the sea monster? I mean, they decided to just let it go. Unfortunately, just like Free Willy, it swims away happy and everything's okay. But, man, you know, what if it turned loose and ate London, you know? But, well, anyway, it worked out. So it was okay. So that one, I would give it 4 stars. I think it was that good. So that was a good one for Series 10 of Capaldi's Doctor. So after that, we have another one of these that's a manipulative template of Doctor Who shows, where the companion is embarrassed by the Doctor in front of her friends. And a lot of what's different from this series and the original, where you might get some details about the companion's life, but they were very brief. And because no one really cared. It was the adventure that mattered. So it was just enough to make him more or less a solid character, just enough to get him in there. Didn't really need much else. But now there's their whole background soap opera and stuff, and it becomes a big, long deal and kind of dominates the show sometimes, where it's more about them than it is the Doctor. Or it's an episodic series, or at least it originally was. And the adventure itself is just sort of there for the background. No one really cares about the concepts and stuff. So a lot of this stuff gets in the way. But in this case, so there is some mystery going on. There's 2 story arcs. It looks like the mysterious vault, which I think we can all assume is the master. But you're not supposed to know that. And then there's Bill. And apparently the Doctor knew her mother. There's some photographic evidence of this, so we'll see how that pans out. But in this instance, we had the scene where Bill's looking for a place to live with her roommates while she's going to school and everything, and they're looking for a place, and they go to a haunted house, apparently. It's not haunted, but it's infested with some sort of bizarre mutant cockroaches and all this sort of thing. You'll just have to see it to see how it works out. But It plays on the typical horror movie plot where you've got, college kids looking to go somewhere, and they get picked off one by one by the monster. And there's a creepy old landlord there. And it turns out the monster is unwittingly and all that. Well, the roaches are not unwittingly, but he's doing this to keep his mother alive. And now she's some sort of tree woman. She's turned to wood. But anyway, the manipulation part here is that, yes, Bill is embarrassed by the Doctor in front of her friends. Now, Bill has just gotten to know the Doctor, and she's friends with a god from outer space who has this magical machine that can take her anywhere at any time. But let's get back to going to school and looking for a place to live. And it's just that just doesn't work. But they've done it several times in these series, and they did it with Clara, and Amy was embarrassed by him a couple times, all that stuff. And that's another problem. You've done it once, and then you do it again, and again, and again. And can't you think of something else? And but also just the idea of trying to capture that she's with this incredible person, and she's already taken him for granted and bored with him. I'm not buying that. So that's a problem. Overall, the story, like I said, was a callback to old the horror movie template. It works with that, and it's kind of sick but sad at the same time about the whole story. And it gives you a few more little clues about the mysterious vault, which, like I said, is either the Master or something to do there, because we know John Sims coming back. They've already leaked that. And either that'll be a time travel thing so that the Master and Missy can exist at the same times, sort of like they used to do with all the 5 Doctors and all that. Or Missy isn't the Master after all, and maybe she's the Ronnie or something. I don't know, but I think that's probably what that is. And they'll deal with that probably at the time when the Doctor will have to regenerate into the new guy. Yeah, but this one's another one of these. It's like Pilot. It has some problems in it that bothered me, but it's not horrible. So, a half star. Now, so far of these episodes of Series 10, I thought Smile was the absolute worst, because it just was awful. But now comes Oxygen, which probably steals the crown. Even though the concept was cool in the sense of the setting of this space station, it's got this scary thing where the spacesuits, these astronauts that are on the space station are using malfunction and kill them. The suits are automated, and so once they're dead, the suits keep moving, so you've got these almost like zombies walking around on the space station. So it has a good atmosphere and the look of these dead people in their astronaut suits and all that. And that would have worked really great, and it could have been a classic type of Doctor Who adventure where they're trapped and they got to try to get back and all that. But no, couldn't leave it there. It had this idiot idea that oxygen had become this commodity. You had to work it off to get it or afford it. It was ridiculous. Who would take this job? And if you weren't efficient enough, you lost your air and you died. And then that was the idea, that this company was behind the automated suits, killing them off because they were inefficient and costing money. But then you had these suits that could do everything. So it's like, well, why didn't you just send the suits, or better, just robots, to do the work? That would be a lot cheaper. But no, let's kill some people and then replace them with more people that we can kill. It was just terrible. It was just a dumb idea because, well, they wanted you to be upset about capitalism. Oh, and in case you didn't catch that, don't worry. The Doctor almost turns to the screen and tells you, "And that's what you get with capitalism, because it's horrible, it's crap, and you don't want to do that, no." That just kicks you right out of the show. You're no longer in it because the Doctor wants to preach to you, but in case you haven't figured it out yet, capitalism is very, very bad. God, that was awful. And so that makes it worse than Smile even. Bad enough you're starting off with an idiotic concept to begin with. And quite frankly, I don't think this writer understands what capitalism is, because you're working in it. Doctor Who is quite the capitalist franchise. Those little TARDIS piggy banks aren't for free, those t-shirts and stuff. So, and it was just really stupid. And then on that insult to injury, you have your star stop and give everyone a lecture on capitalism. Just awful. So that one, so Oxygen takes the crown as the absolute worst, and Smile is a very close second of really bad doctor. So, of course, it gets no stars, none whatsoever. And so anyway, this ends it up at the moment. As a result of this story, the doctor went blind, and he's still blind, and he's going to be blind in the next episode. We'll see how that turns out. And apparently there's more clues and whatnot for the secret vault. So we'll see what that's about. So I'm doing this particular video here to rate the of Series 10 so far. So if I count Dr. Mysterio in this, which is one I gave 5 stars to, which is a solid show, and then Thin Ice is a really good one, and then you got 2 that are sort of okay and not bad, and then 2 that are absolutely horrible. So I'm thinking 3 stars. How about that? 3 out of 5 stars, which surprises me because I was dubious because I haven't been happy with these stories. Too many bad ones and not enough good ones, and too much of the same thing over and over again, and storylines that aren't adequately resolved, if at all, and stuff like that, and just things that seem kind of lazy and sloppy and manipulative without much justification from the story itself. So maybe it'll get better. We'll see, and I certainly hope so, since it's going to be Capaldi's last season, or series as the Brits call it. And it's sad because, like I said, I think he could have been a really great doctor. He just didn't get the great stories. He's got a few, which I mentioned here, but they're few and far between overall. And that's not his fault. That's the writer's fault. And that's true of the other actors of this new series. I don't really hold them responsible for the bad parts of the new Doctor Who. So hopefully it'll get better. But so far for Series 10, that's 3 stars from the Nailsin ratings. And that was the Nailsin ratings. Commentary from me, Mr. Nailsin. The views and opinions expressed in the Nailsin ratings do not necessarily reflect those held by Radio Misfits or any other entity that Mr. Nailsin may or may not be involved with. So any complaints or comments should be sent to @Mr. Nailsin on Twitter, where they'll be promptly ignored and or blocked.